Okay, let's dive into this, because recently the world was absolutely stunned when the United States Pentagon did something nobody expected. They released a massive, highly classified trove of documents all about aliens and UFOs. I mean, for decades, these topics have basically just been the stuff of Hollywood blockbusters and late-night conspiracy theories on the internet. But what happens when the very department tasked with defending the nation formally opens up its evidence room to the public? Well, in this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly what is hiding in these newly declassified files. And honestly, the scale of this release is truly staggering. We're talking about 160 newly unsealed government files detailing over 400 alleged UAP, or unidentified anomalous phenomena, encounters from all across the globe. Some of these highly restricted accounts date all the way back to the 1940s, while others are shockingly recent, literally pulled from military records just last year. It is a monumental data dump, and it's left both the deepest skeptics and the biggest believers scrambling for answers.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll look at the Pentagon release itself. Then, we're heading to space to look at UAP traces. Third, we'll dive into some wild UFO phenomenon in Indonesia. And finally, we'll trace the historical roots back to Roswell and Palomar. Let's get right to it.
All right, Section 1, the Pentagon release and political motives. When the Department of Defense dropped these files on May 8, 2026, it sent absolute shockwaves around the world, and two very distinct narratives emerged almost immediately. On the one hand, the Trump administration and the Secretary of Defense stated this was purely about unprecedented government transparency. They framed it as keeping a promise to the American people and accused the previous Biden administration of hiding the truth. But on the flip side, there's been heavy public speculation suggesting the timing might have actually been a political distraction from a recent conflict involving Iran or looming impeachment issues. Now, we aren't here to endorse either view, but understanding that divided political context is absolutely crucial to understanding the release itself. So, the actual mechanism driving this release is a program called PURSUE. That stands for the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters. Ordered by Donald Trump on February 19, 2026, this system was specifically built to hunt down and release government files related to extraterrestrial life and UAPs. And the administration was clear. They framed this as just Phase 1, promising that even more disclosures are coming down the pipeline.
Moving on to Section 2, UAP traces in space.
Now, what's really interesting about these encounters is that we aren't talking about amateur stargazers here. These are accounts from highly trained NASA astronauts, right in the middle of historic lunar missions. During Apollo 11, back in 1969, Buzz Aldrin reported seeing small flashes of light inside the cabin while he was just trying to sleep. Later that same year, on Apollo 12, Alan Bean reported these bizarre, laser-like lights drifting away into space. And by 1972, during Apollo 17, astronaut Harrison Schmitt witnessed bright light particles spiraling in the distance. He actually compared them to Independence Day fireworks.
But these files don't just stop with the 60s space race. We have this incredible contrast of encounters stretching across the decades. For instance, in 1965, astronaut Frank Borman on Gemini 7 reported a bogey made up of hundreds of moving particles. Fast forward to 2022, and military footage out of the Middle East captures an oval object moving with speeds and trajectories completely unlike any standard missile. And then there's this wild, highly specific report from September 2023. It's an FBI FaceTime interview with a drone operator at a military test site. He detailed a metallic gray object, smaller than a 737 but larger than a drone, with bright white light, absolutely no wings and no exhaust, and it just vanished into thin air in less than 10 seconds.
So you might be wondering, how does the government actually handle this stuff internally? Well, former President Barack Obama was recently asked about this in an interview, and he gave this exact quote. "They are real, but I haven't seen them, and they are not kept in Area 51. I love this quote because it perfectly highlights that classic American tactic of hiding secrets in plain sight. I mean, Area 51 is literally the most famous secret base in the world, which is exactly why you never actually keep your most sensitive secrets there.
Okay, Section 3, UFO phenomena in Indonesia.
It is incredibly easy to think of UFOs as purely an American phenomenon, right? We always picture secret deserts in Nevada or New Mexico. But you have to hear about this 1959 incident on Alor Island, recorded in vivid detail by aerospace pioneer Jacob Solitun and police chief Alwi Al-Nadada. The locals there reported encountering these incredibly bizarre entities. The beings reportedly had red skin, silver hair, and wore blue, long-sleeve shirts with belts. They carried these strange metal tube weapons and possessed almost supernatural athleticism, like they were capable of jumping clean over a human's head from a complete standstill.
And things on Alor escalated incredibly fast. Terrified villagers actually attacked these beings with arrows, which had absolutely no effect. Eventually, heavily armed police managed to surround the entities at a distance of just 13 meters. The police opened fire directly on them, but astonishingly, the beings were completely unharmed. There was zero blood, just bullet holes in the trees behind them. And then, leaving only strange, short footprints in the dirt, the entities vanished instantly into thin air.
But these Indonesian files don't just detail physical run-ins, they also reveal lingering environmental evidence, like the crop circles found in Sleman, Yogyakarta. Now, for anyone unfamiliar, a crop circle is a sudden, highly complex geometric pattern created by flattening crops, usually overnight. According to Robert Allred's book on military UFO encounters, a lot of theorists believe these impossibly precise, overnight formations are either physical landing traces or some kind of complex energetic message left behind by anomalous craft.
Which brings us to Section 4, Historical Roots, Roswell and Palomar.
To truly understand the gravity of these 160 unsealed Pentagon files today, we have to look back at how the modern conspiracy actually began. It really all starts in 1947 with Roswell, New Mexico. A rancher finds mysterious debris, and the military initially announces to the press that they've captured a flying disc, only to immediately walk it back and claim, oh, actually, it was just a weather balloon. The story kind of went dormant until 1978, when Major Jesse Marcel gave an explosive interview claiming the debris was, in fact, extraterrestrial. Then, in 1994, the Air Force shifted the narrative yet again, stating it was actually debris from Project Mogul, a top-secret Cold War balloon project designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. Talk about a shifting narrative. That right there planted the ultimate seed of government mistrust.
And that mistrust quickly blossomed into an entirely new subculture. Picture this. It's August 1954, and over 1,000 people, journalists, FBI agents, curious locals, all gather at the top of Mount Palomar in California for a massive UFO convention. The star speaker was a man named George Adamski, and he made the jaw-dropping claim that human-like Venusians from the planet Venus were already secretly living amongst us in major cities.
So right in the middle of this convention, attendees notice a pale, blonde woman with striking features who looked exactly like an illustration Adamski had provided of a Venusian. Naturally, a crowd cornered her, asking her point blank, "Are you from Venus?" She calmly replied no. When they pushed harder, asking why she was even there, she simply said she was interested in the topic. It turns out her name was Dolores Barrios, a designer from New York who was just attending with 2 musician friends, but the crowd was absolutely convinced she was an alien in disguise.
And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute chaos of early UFO hysteria. A Brazilian journalist named João Martins literally ambushed Dolores and her friends, snapping a flash photograph without their permission. Startled and super annoyed, the 3 of them immediately bolted into the nearby woods to escape the mob. Moments later, the panicked crowd claimed they saw a flying saucer take off from those exact woods. Because camera technology was too slow to capture the supposed ship, only that one photo of Dolores remained, cementing her into UFO legend forever.
So what does this all mean? The crucial point to take away here is this. The Pentagon deliberately released these files without drawing definitive conclusions for us. They just handed over the data, the 1940s radar anomalies, the astronaut logs, those wingless metal objects from 2023, and threw it directly into the court of public opinion. Do these 60 unsealed documents actually prove we aren't alone in the universe? Or do they just prove that our skies hold mysteries we simply don't have the science to explain yet? Look at the evidence, weigh the history, and ask yourself, what do you believe?